Welcome to the Tortoise and Hare Financial Podcast, where host Jim Lau dives into the world of personal finance and the impact it has on our daily lives. Today, Jim is joined by Michel Tordjman, the owner of Mobility for Life. Mobility for Life was established in 2012 to serve the needs of our community by providing a wide range of products, services, and installations of home health care, accessibility, mobility aids, rehabilitation, and respiratory medical equipment. Michel and his team go above and beyond to ensure that their clients receive a tailored and superior service in the comfort of their own home. Tune in as Jim and Michel discuss the importance of mobility and independence in our daily lives and the various funding options available for those in need. Stay with us as we learn more about Mobility for Life and the impact it has on the lives of those they serve.
Welcome to our podcast today. We are the Tortoise and the Hare Financial Podcast. My name is Jim Lau, and I am the host of our podcast. And today I have joining us my co-host, Ryan Janot. Ryan, say hello.
Hello.
And today we have a special guest, Michel Tordjman, joining us as well. Michel, hello. How are you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you.
Good. That's wonderful. So a couple of things. Anything that we reference in this podcast episode today, I will include a link in our description box in both the podcast and as well as our YouTube channel. So this will be posted on YouTube and also on your favorite podcast program. And today we are interviewing Michel. And Michel, you have been a client of TVH's now. I'm just trying to think about it. I think close to 15 years now, both you and Diana.
I think so. And it's been about at least 15, perhaps even 20 years.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think at one point you've actually worked with every single partner within TVH.
And that is true.
And one of the things that Ryan and I decided to do in terms of our podcast for this year is we're trying to spotlight our clients who may have a business. And Michel, we thought yours would be the ideal first episode to spotlight because it really works well, ties in nicely with some of the work that both Ryan and I are doing with our clients as well. And that work that we do with Ryan is, we assist a lot of our clients with retirement planning, just as we have with both you and Diana. And part of that retirement plan, we talk about life insurance to potentially help transition some of the wealth to the next generation, or in the event of a spouse who passes away, to inject some additional capital. So the second spouse is left with some funds for retirement. We also incorporate critical illness insurance. And critical illness insurance would be, for some of our clients who are older, and if they develop a critical illness, they would receive, again, an injection of capital, so that way they don't have to basically tie into or use any of the assets that they've set aside for retirement. And, one of the most recent offerings that Ryan and I have been working with now is long-term care insurance, where we are seeing some of our clients who are retired, develop some mobility issues, and they're looking for some assistance. And to, in order to purchase some of the mobility equipment or receive some assistance, there's funding requirements, and we're trying to avoid them to have to dip into their existing retirement funds. And we're providing them some insurance solutions to help fund some of those purchases and some assistance as well. And, we always say to our clients, it's always cheaper to have the insurance company pay for those as opposed to you having to pay with your own out-of-pocket funds. So,
absolutely.
With that in mind, Michel, really what I'd like for you to do is perhaps talk a bit about your company, Mobility for Life, and what you do in terms of your service offering, and ultimately, what inspired you and Diana to kind of delve into this business.
Certainly. Well, Thank you, Jim, first for this opportunity to discuss and describe some of the services that my company offers. Just to give you a little bit of a background, Mobility for Life was established in 2012 to serve our community with the supplies of products, services, and installation of home health care, specialized accessibility or renovation, mobility aids, rehabilitation, and respiratory medical devices. This remains the same today. We offer a one-stop to acquire a full spectrum of products and services with a 100% satisfaction guarantee.
So one stop kind of sounds familiar.
Yes.
We also offer that one stop solution.
And go ahead. So what I wanted to add is simply the requirement for products can be complex and require a lot of servicing with the right level of individuals in the healthcare business to make sure that the product is aligned properly with the needs of the patients. And,
so let's maybe kind of expand a bit on the product offering. So really what we're talking about is things people would understand, things like wheelchairs, for example, canes, or even some bigger type of mobility products. Is that correct?
Right. That is correct. These types of products are very, very specific, and they are designed at the level of manufacturing to make sure that they meet the client's needs in terms of their requirements due to their disability. So it is usually done with an occupational therapist that is registered and licensed by the government, so that we can provide those products appropriately for the clients, and that they will fit and be safe and effective.
Right. And so for myself, actually, I had some mobility issues when I had a hip replacement a few years ago.
Right.
And there was a lot of mobility equipment that I required. So instead of going to the local Shoppers Drug Mart, for example, and kind of picking something up off the shelf, clients would contact yourself and would provide them with an appropriate solution. Is that correct?
That is correct. And you brought a very good point, Jim, because you may think you need a certain product, but it may not be the product that you need. So then you need the assistance of an occupational therapist and myself in order to zero in on the type of product that is very specific to your condition and that will meet your need.
Okay. That's great.
Jim, you even made a great point too, because often people, as we're talking about this, will think, oh, it only applies to people that are much older, but it actually applies to people perhaps much younger than that. So I guess, Michel.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what kind of, I guess your age group doesn't just focus on people, say, over 70, but maybe perhaps you have people that are in their 20s that are looking for your services, or their families are looking for your services to help.
Absolutely. You are correct, Ryan. Most of my clients tend to be seniors, but I do have clients also that are much younger, that got perhaps into an accident where they fell, where they needed surgery, and then hence the rehab equipment that I provide come into play. There's even care for children, unfortunately, that may have some disability issues. So It's a wide spectrum of different age groups that we service.
Yeah. So while people are looking for mobility for life, what makes you guys different from perhaps somebody else that's out there on the market?
Very good point. Perhaps in building our business, my vision was to provide, like I said, a one-stop shop for the requirement of that clients. but most importantly is the reliability and responsiveness that you need to have in this type of services. Often what happens, it's a process that takes time and takes patience and requires perhaps several visits to make sure we got it right in terms of fitting and measurements and everything that comes into play when it comes to wheelchairs and other devices. So where we differentiate ourselves from others is that we are very, very reliable and responsive to those needs.
Yeah.
Once a client signs up basically with us to do an assessment, we take it from there and we provide a complete service from A to Z.
Yeah. I find it interesting because the one-stop shop, people can go out and spin their wheels looking at indicted with endless amounts of information, right? And just like us at TVH, being able to come to a place where everybody's organized, communicating with each other, and then same with yourself, right? People
Exactly.
will go and spend hours upon hours worrying about all these things, but instead it's a great service to be able to go to one place and have pretty much most of your answers answered.
Exactly, and not only do provide the coordination and of the services that may not come directly from me, but provide the different organization that can provide those services and look to see that they are implemented appropriately. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. Someone may come to me and say, I have a requirement for PSWs, caregivers to come every day for whatever amount of time. Well, I work with a company that basically provide those services, and then I coordinate the fulfillment of that service appropriately. So that's what I mean by one-stop shop. So they don't have to, as you said, circle around forever trying to find those services that are required.
And you go to them as well. Is that, Michel? Is that correct? You actually go to their home and
oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the typically what happens is that a client will come referred. A lot of my clients are referred because I've been able to establish myself as this type of organization that can provide those services. And I basically set an appointment with an occupational therapist where we do a full assessment. We identify what the needs are, the requirement. We survey the home to make sure that we're going to install is appropriate and can be done. And then we make a plan with a presentation and recommendation to the client for them to decide.
Yeah, which I think, in thinking about the whole process, if you're someone who's not mobile, to have that expectation of going to a location to try to find the appropriate solution, and you can't because you're not mobile. So now you're relying perhaps on a family member to try to do that on your behalf.
Right.
It kind of defeats the purpose where you're able to actually go to their home, provide them with some options, again, to even have the discussion with the therapist and really match that up nicely. Right?
Perfect.
Like it's just,
exactly.
Yeah.
And in every case, that works best because, again, you have to go through that process. And I might add that for those that even have mobility issues, rather than come to a store, I go to them and give them perhaps what is the best for them, rather than come to a store and make a selection at that point, if it is specifically related to a product.
Yeah, and we're definitely starting to see, at least from our end, we're starting to have more conversations with our clients where they've said things like, we don't want to sell our home. We love where we live. We love our neighborhood. But we're afraid that as our mobility changes, that we no longer will be able to stay in the home that we love. And I've had a couple of clients who, again, were kind of presented with the option of, do they sell? And the problem with selling is they can't find anything of similar, or similar value or even cheaper in their neighborhood that they've been in for 10, 15, 20 years. They don't want to move away from their local church. And they also want to try to avoid having to go to a facility. So, in seeing what you offer, Michel, it really allows, a client of ours or anyone who has these challenges to kind of prolong their ability to stay in the home that they love and avoid having to go to a facility for care, and we've known through COVID that that's been spotlighted as well in terms of some of the challenges there and what people have kind of experienced. I think recovery and longevity, and it's been proven, is much better or improved if you're at home as opposed to going to a facility that you don't want to really be a part of. Would you say that that's accurate and that's correct?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And that's exactly what is actually happening. The great number of people in the population, aging population, that require those services at home do not want to move out of their homes. They want to stay in their homes that they've been probably there for quite a number of years and want to be able to continue to live independently with safety. And this is where we come in. Okay, so I would say a very, very high percentage of my client actually are people in that category that do not want to move out of their homes.
Right. And then there's the difference, I guess, between private and public services.
And there's a difference.
Recently, I just recently on February the 17th, the Toronto Star put out an article. I'm just reading it here. I'll just read the headline. Ontario Home Care and Community Support Programs at risk of significant service cuts. Right. So even with that, having to rely on the public programs, we're starting to see that there's a decline of services there as well. So to have your own private option gives you, I think, is best. Is best, absolutely. So
it's absolutely
let's talk about So let's talk about then the process. So what is the process of providing the services in the comfort of a client's home or assisted living residence? So let's say I have a client of mine and they come to me and say, Jim, we're dealing with mobility issues and, I can't get to the second story, for example, but I don't know where to go. And I've had this question come up in the past. What would be the process once I connect them to you?
Well, very, very simple. It's one phone call. One phone call to my company, to me, and I take it from that point on. I basically have a conversation over the phone with the client to establish and define what the needs are, what the situation are, and then subsequent to that call with the client's agreement, I will make an appointment at their home with an occupational therapist at no cost, no obligation. That part is absorbed by myself. And then we go into the process of establishing the requirement, the needs. We make a plan. We present a quote to the customer to make sure they understand what it is they're getting and how much it's going to cost. And then we move forward.
Okay. So, and it seems super easy process, but I guess one of the things that often comes up is like the coordination of everything. Can you tell us about the importance of making sure, physiotherapists and occupational therapists are involved in this process?
Well, that's part of what I do is to coordinate that part of it. So whether it's an occupational therapist or a nurse or whether it's actually a physician even, I coordinate all that, set up the meeting, and all it is a matter of defining a time, a specific time and day and time for the meeting to take place, which usually is at least with two people, myself and an OT, but also it could include other people as well, other professionals as well. And that's basically done by myself. I coordinate everything.
Yeah, I guess the having everybody involved at one stage instead of over time is to make sure that communication happens correctly for you, the clients, making sure the right equipment's being brought into,
Exactly.
The number of times you build something at home and you realize you have to go to Home Depot 6 or 7 times, right? Because you just didn't have the right things. But I guess you help in coordinating to make sure that things like that are essentially eliminated for the most part.
Well, exactly. That's what actually occurs. So there may be actually one meeting, there may be 2 meetings, perhaps 3 meetings. It's the sort of thing that you work on because this has to be defined. And sometimes something works better than another device. And we do also trials. We also offer our clients to say, okay, we're going to bring this piece of equipment and we want you to try it. Okay, because their condition is complex enough that this or something else may work for them. But you don't know this until they actually try it. And that's what I do. Yeah. And then we deliver the piece of equipment, we monitor it, we come back and say, okay, is this working well for you? Well, no, maybe this is too big, too small, it's not comfortable. Then we provide another device that meets that requirement.
Awesome.
There's obviously costs because, again, this is private, so it's out-of-pocket cost. So maybe I'll talk a little bit about the programs that Ryan and I are currently working with that help cover some of those costs. And for people who don't have that type of coverage, you can, Michel, then talk about some of the options available through what you offer. So, for Ryan and I, once you're someone who's in need of mobility solutions, home care, if you don't have the coverage, there's really nothing we could do. So for us, we're working with pre-retirees or clients who have just retired, and we talk to them about, here are some realities that you may be facing now over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So you may want to consider some form of coverage. So again, if you are one of the individuals who has mobility challenges, requires home care, it is, the funding is covered by the insurance policy.
That is correct.
We're also, and we're also talking to the children of these individuals. So some of the clients who are already, don't have the coverage, and they recognize or they see now, the cost behind some of these services. We're speaking to the children saying, well, maybe you should look at covering yourself in the event this happens to you, in the future. So that's what we offer. There's coverage that we have available to clients. For individuals who don't have personal insurance to cover these costs, Michel, aside from having to liquidate their own personal assets, their retirement assets, which has a tax implication, what other options are available to a client?
Well, essentially, there are a couple of options. Actually, there are 3 options. And by the way, you bring a very, very important and very good point, which is the affordability of the devices and the services and the products that can get very expensive. It's not inexpensive. It's quite the bill when the needs are, defined. So first, there is ADP. ADP is the Assistive Device Program of Ontario, which is part of OHIP, which covers 75% of eligible products that have been assessed by an occupational therapist, a registered occupational therapist, and funded as such. So, for example, if you look at the power wheelchair, which costs upwards $10,000 to $12,000, they would pay $7,500, and the client is responsible for $2,500. Now, with coverage, my understanding with insurance is that they will pay the portion that remains the client's responsibility. So just because you have ADP doesn't mean it's enough. It's not enough. You still need some form of coverage so that you can be whole in terms of the expenses that you have. Again, and also, ADP only covers mobility devices and respiratory devices, and do not cover things such as stair lifts. They don't cover hospital beds. They don't cover none of that. Okay? So it's limited. And the requirement for insurance, I might say, is very, very much a need at this point.
Okay. Good to know. And if they don't have AEDP,
okay, so if they don't have AEDP,
other option?
Yeah, there are other options. Depending on the client's financial condition, there are organizations such as the March of Dimes. There is Veterans and a few others that, upon an application, will consider funding. But again, they will only fund maybe 50%, not even 75%. So we get into the same situation in terms of the funding. It's a partial funding if they are approved. Okay. Right. The third is what I do in my company is I also can qualify clients that may not have the cash outlay up front by providing a no interest, no payment for a period of time loan, so that they can acquire the equipment immediately because there is a need immediately, and then pay over time or pay it off when they do have the money.
Okay. So there are financing.
And that's done all through me again. I basically set it all up. All I have to do is sign.
Okay, but you work with a third party?
Yeah, I work with provider? A third party. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A financial organization. Yeah.
Good. So then we kind of talked about the wide range of products that are offered through your company. What would you say would be like the number one? Like, is it more mobility devices? Is it more, retrofitting a home? Like, what would you say right now is the number?
Right now, mobility devices is the big one. In fact, if I were to I track my sales and see where do I sell, and of course for statistics, and also what type of product did I sell, and I will say mobility devices are number one. They probably account for 80% of my sales at this point.
And could part of that be maybe because people don't, again, and this isn't speaking with clients, they don't know where to go to if they're looking for a stair lift solution, for example, or to kind of retrofit their home, right? Mm-hmm. So you connect your clients to individuals who can help them with that as well, right?
I do it all, actually, because I have a wide range of resources that I can use when a need requires, and it's all done through me. So let's say, for instance, so let's say they require stair lift. Okay, I can handle that requirement, complete from A to Z. Okay? It's all done through me. Perfect. If they require hospital bed, if they require anything that has to do, and they're related to mobility, accessibility, and home healthcare devices, I basically handle.
And what if they require a referral to a therapist? I've had that question come up.
At that point in time, I coordinate the requirement with a qualified therapist, nurse, caregiver, whatever it is required, and it's provided directly from them.
Perfect. So let's kind of paint a picture here. Someone falls, breaks their hip. They're in care for a period of weeks, and they'd like to go home, and they require again therapy, rehab therapy, and mobility devices. Literally, they can call you, and from start to finish, I can refer you to the therapist. I can help you with the mobility devices. I can help you with all of those needs.
Exactly.
And I know we're repeating this, but it's just more of I want people to understand, because I've had, again, over the years, clients come to me and say, well, what about this and what about that? And, it's all disconnected. And I would say that you're the first company that I've come across where it literally is from A to Z. We do it all. We can help you, so it's literally
everything.
It is a one-stop shop, holistic solution for someone who requires mobility assistance, recovery, and again, in-home care, trying to avoid having to go to a long-term facility, which is even more costly.
Well, exactly.
Than staying in your own home.
Exactly. So I don't know if you saw on my brochures or in my business card, I'm a member of APAC, Aging in Place Society of Canada, which is an organization that basically provide all these services, and I'm part of it, where let's say even someone say, look, I need this, and this, but I need to move. I need to move to a new place. I need a real estate agent. I need a mover. I need all of that.
Yeah.
I have resources and I can refer them to those resources. I make sure that they are taken care of right from the beginning to end. So this is what I do. That's what I mean by one-stop shop. It's truly that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people out there have a story of a family member that, that needs mobility support. Often it's later on in life. Often it has really hardships on the families when it comes to taking care of somebody or putting them in a home. There's some big decisions that are happening here that often people aren't thinking about ahead of time. I think of my family and the things that have happened with our family, even how somebody goes into a home and making sure the arrangements are taken care of, and how hard it can be on individual family members in organizing that. It's really important that people discuss as a family and with their loved ones, what are the stages, even if you're in your 40s or 50s, what are the steps that we want to take to make sure that all these things are taken care of, and that we're not being shocked by large sums of money needing to go towards these things. I think another part is people ensuring that their privacy is taken care of too. What kind of steps do you guys take to ensure it's in confidential and the privacy is being taken care of too?
Absolutely. Because it's related to healthcare, it's even more sensitive to make sure that the privacy is upheld and respected. So on all my communication, nothing happens without, first of all, the client's consent. And not only their consent, but also giving me the ability on their behalf to contact whatever other providers that they needed from time to time. In addition to that, all my email, everything is encrypted in such a way that it cannot be detected. And the safety protocols in terms of privacy are enforced. So there is no question that I've never had an issue for the 12 years. Hopefully there will never be one.
Mm-hmm. Now, in all the years that you've been in business, I'm sure you've had a lot of success stories. Is there one that kind of would come top of mind that you'd like to share with us? There
are several. Actually, I will invite anybody to look at my website where there are testimonials, very successful stories of a couple of clients. I'll give you a couple of them. One client called me on a Sunday in absolute panic because her mother was being discharged and they needed immediately a number of devices. Fortunately, I had everything in stock and I reacted very quickly. She called me actually on a Saturday. By Sunday at 5:00, everything was installed. I really had to really step up on this one. And when it's urgent, I will do whatever I can to fulfill that requirement very quickly because it meant that, the person couldn't possibly function or the client couldn't possibly function in their home if they didn't have this type of equipment.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What kind of
another one? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Michel.
No, I wanted to illustrate another one. was more on a planning basis because they had a lot of time and they took themselves in time. But it was very successful because I'd never had to change anything for what was recommended. Everything fit perfectly. Everything went on time, and everything was done in accordance to their requirements. So it was very, very good. It didn't require anything, and they were very thankful because they didn't have the time to be, doing a lot of things, having meetings. So in literally 2 meetings, everything went on as planned.
Yeah. Well, my question really was about, like, as people are kind of going through this process of looking for the services, looking for the equipment, is there any advice that you have for people when they're looking, questions, or when choosing a company like yourself?
Come to me. Okay. So, yeah, I will tell you. Very, very, very important question. If you're going to look for someone to do this kind of work, work with someone for this requirement, finds a company that is very reliable, and I mean very, and very responsive. Because without those two, you will be going into a black hole, going in circles. Trust me. It's because the work that I do and the work that is required in order to meet the needs with satisfaction requires a lot of planning, a lot of resources, and a lot of meticulous work to make sure it's right to a measurement that it is correct. So you don't have to go in circles and go and back and forth and this is not what I order and this is what I need and so on and so forth.
So you're going to take care of them all the way through.
Yeah, exactly. You need someone that really has hands-on, on top ability to do this kind of work.
And when they call, they're not dealing with a call center. They're not dealing with a customer service rep.
No.
They are dealing with you and Diana, I'm guessing, as well. Yeah, correct?
Exactly. Myself and my spouse, my wife, Diana. Let me tell you a last comment that I will make. If you make a call and you don't get a call back, that's a red flag.
Right.
That's all I'll say. And when you call me, I respond. Most of the time you reach me. If you don't reach me, you leave me a voicemail and you will get a call back within 24 hours, maximum, if not half a day.
That's great. Yeah. So then, Michel, what are the future plans for Mobility for Life and what can we expect for you and your company?
We talked about how this industry is exponentially growing, leaps and bounds, because of the requirement of healthcare and because of an aging population. And I got into this business 12 years ago because I could predict what was going to happen in terms of the explosion of the baby boomers requiring care. So the plans is to expand my company. We will see what happens this year in terms of my effective sales. And my plan is to actually, not in 2024, but in 2025, to expand, perhaps with a location, reopen a location, and be able to offer more of the services with the same at the same level that I've been able to deliver. One of the things I will mention, the reason for not having an actual location is because due to COVID-19, we were forced to close. We had no choice. As you can appreciate, the most vulnerable segment of the population were seniors. And we just couldn't function at that point. So that provided a bit of a setback in terms of my growing plan. But now that things are back to normal, the plan is in 2025 to definitely take my company to a level that will be higher and better than what it is right now.
Yeah, if people see the numbers of the growing population, it's staggering the number of people that are 65 and over in Canada, and that us as younger Canadians too, looking at our parents growing, and helping us prepare. So how do the people that are listening in, how do they reach out to you to get kind of a no obligation consultation? How do we contact you?
416-505-0746.
Okay.
Or send me an email at Michel, Michel, at Mobility Solutions, with an S, now.com.
And there's a website.
And as I mentioned too, I will be including the link to your website, Michel.
Yeah, if you do not mind. My website, they can also go directly on my website, where they can browse through the website and see what we do, how we do it, some of the products that are available. And the website is www.mobilitysolutionsnow.com.
That's great.
I will give you a point of reference, perhaps, in terms of the data that I was able to get from Statistics Canada. There are literally 365,000 new seniors every single year in Ontario added. So just do the math. It's going to be explode in the next 5 to 7, 8 years, where there will be a great number of people we need to take care of. Yep. 4 out of 5 seniors, 65 and older, need some type of care, equipment, or otherwise.
Yeah. And Michel, we didn't talk about this, but what area of Ontario do you service?
Right now, I service all of the GTA, which it goes right up to Ajax on the east and Brampton to the west, and north is also Brampton as well. And my future plan is to expand to all of Ontario and have a satellite operation where I can deal have more of a reach for my clients.
All right. That's great. So as we wrap this up, lots of information today. I really hope, again, if there's anyone out there listening and they're thinking about for themselves or even for their parent or a loved one who might require some assistance, again, they know where to reach you, Michel. And if for whatever reason you can't find the sources, just reach out to Ryan and I will be able to point you in.
Absolutely.
And just as a point as well, Ryan and I have no ownership in Michel's business. Mm-hmm. We don't get compensated for any referrals over to Michel. It's literally, a service that we believe is important. And,
yeah.
People are going in blind at times, not knowing where to go. We've known Michel. I've personally known Michel and his wife, again, for close to 20 years. I know the care that they put into what they do in working with clients. So I have 100% faith in Michel and Diana and the company. So yeah, reach out to us if there are any questions. Michel, any final thoughts, or Ryan, any final thoughts?
Thank you, Jim, for this opportunity again to air, my company's services. Certainly, I'm here. My primary objective in this business is to service my clients, to service them well and beyond expectation, actually, with 100% guarantee of everything they will do with me. So thank you again, and have a very nice day.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. Ryan, anything to add? Are you good?
Again, it just comes down to the planning and us being able to reach out and provide the education for people along the way, and hopefully they can start making some decisions and nothing comes to a shock, because those are the times that you feel most stressed. So if we do the planning ahead of time, it helps along the way. So
That's great. Well, Michel, thank you very much for your time today. Brian, thanks for co-hosting once again. I'm Jim, again, host of the Tortoise and the Hare Financial Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening, and we will see you soon. Take care.